Alrighty, so thank you first and foremost for doing your due diligence out in the community and actually showing up. Already right now you've got an expression out here publicly that you want to be a part of a solution. You're the people that are a part of that 99% that are desperately fighting to get us included to be what we need to get. The sorts of people that deserve the justice, economic justice, actual social justice, all of those sorts of things. And we want to hear, first and foremost, about your stories. What are your stories levying the storm that has been the recession? What are your stories growing up, seeing the changes that this community has actually seen and gone through? How have you seen Miami become a bastion for something that is not the best bastion out there in the world? And how can we reimagine a future to make Miami be one of these shining places for economic justice, for freedom, for equality, for things where police brutality doesn't happen on our streets, for a place where we don't have billionaires recalling elections, but we actually have people like us right here sitting here recalling elections. That is what this is. So what we'd like to do is really just open this opportunity right now to really just have a free-form discussion about why is it that you're here? What is the thing that's turning you on to this sort of movement building? What are you willing to do to create some social change out here in the community? Let's just go over some ground rules for speaking, because we got a lot of people here, we got a lot of diverse people here. We want to be as inclusive as possible, all right? So some of the ground rules is just keep it short and concise. Say your main point, say what you got to say, share your beautiful experience that you've got so we can all hear it loud and proud, and then we'll move on and we'll hear from somebody else. You know, gentlemen in the crowd, you know, I'm a guy, I know sometimes we get a little bit over-assertive. We think we want to say a little too much. We might be shutting down conversation that's really, really brilliant that a lot of the ladies in here can really participate in. Let's be mindful, gentlemen, of overtaking conversation, all right? So, should we just get it started right now and have our conversation? Just go ahead.
Just one more thing to keep in mind when we're having this conversation. So, this is Twinkle Fingers. So, I don't know if some of you guys are... This is Twinkle Fingers, and this is something that you guys can use. So if you agree with something that somebody says, you don't need to say, oh, I agree with that, so that we can keep that space for other people to share their stories. But if you want to show that, you can do this. That would just help us keep that conversation moving.
By the way, do you want a bullhorn? Because I have one in my car.
Sure, yeah. If you have a
I'll get it, okay.
Woo! Woo! And so we're all gathered here. I mean, a lot of you have seen this through Facebook. A lot of you have seen this through word of mouth. We're all here again, as Patrick said, as Laura was mentioning, to try to respectfully come together and find out how to talk about common solutions and how to take direct action. We're not going to have like top-down leadership. There's no one giving instructions. We're all just going to talk about, first and foremost, what the problems are in our community, how can we get to, where do we need to go, and how are we going to get there as a community. We also have to be mindful that this group in particular is not necessarily representing all of Miami. There's plenty of people who are Haitian in the community, there's plenty of people who are immigrants in the community. At some point in the near future, we do want to probably take care of that issue and make sure that the next time we meet up, or when we do take the action, that we try to make it as representative as possible. So in talking about all these issues, we should also be mindful about some of the critiques and also some of the positives, and try to see how we can balance all that out to make sure that we have like a really good action. Anything else?
Also, another point, I know that I kind of overheard certain people who may not understand what's going on or have questions. Feel free to ask those questions, and we're not exactly the ones who are going to answer it. You have your peers among you. So don't be afraid to say, I don't know what's going on. You know, that's valid. Just the fact that you're here is amazing. That's a great start. So if you have a question, if you don't understand, if you want to know more about anything, please ask that question. Don't be embarrassed, because we're comrades. So that's also important.
She has a question.
I have a question, which is, are we going to vote on anything today? Or
Yes.
are we just... Okay.
Yes, we probably will.
I think we're trying to establish like goals for the next meeting as well, and also where we want to go, and so keep that in mind as well, like the spaces that you guys want to occupy. So that's also something that we want to consider if you guys just mull over that in the process as well.
And before we begin, there's two housekeeping items. The first one is we're sitting out in the hot sun for a reason. It's because if people are coming in late, they can know that this is where they need to come. But if anyone feels uncomfortable, feels dizzy at any time, please feel free to let people know that. There's water. Does anyone know where the water is? It's over there. There's water right there by the tree. Please feel free to always go there and get water. It's ice cold. Please take advantage of that. We'll also have papers and pencils. If there's any kind of necessity as it arises, please check out the tree area. And at the end of this, we can probably take a tally of what kind of resources we need. Before we get into the bigger discussion, I think we do have NOG, our ACLU that's here.
Right there.
Okay, so if you could give like 2 minutes, just basically like know your rights.
Sure. Yeah, everyone, before we get too far into talking about specific policy things or what it is that we're trying to do here, I just want to be sure everyone is aware that you do have certain rights as protesters, rights of free speech, rights if, you're engaged with police. I brought a few hundred pamphlets, so the information's all in the pamphlet, so I won't waste too much time here talking about it. I'm going to start some over here, some over here, some over here. I hope there's enough for everyone. If not, share. It's really great information, and it's going to help you protect your rights as these events go on.
Before we begin, okay, I have a question before we move
Guys,
on.
listen up, please.
Before we move on, is there anybody, hay alguien aquí que no habla inglés, que necesita traducción?
Does anyone need a Spanish translation, English translation,
Or
anything like that?
translation of any kind? Nobody? Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Meet a bunch of people you've never talked to before.
We're Republicans.
Cool. So what we're gonna do, as we have our discussion, let's a minute and a pop.
Minute each.
All right,
Yeah.
a minute each. So we can do this by raising our hands. We'll point at you and then we'll let you roll. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Come up
Let's
front!
come up on the sketch.
And I can't find a job that pays more than minimum wage or offers me more than 20 hours a week. My mom is sick, my sister's in college now and can't afford tuition, and my uncle just lost his house and his job. And the problem is that this is not an exceptional situation of mine. This is happening all across the country to all kinds of people. I've got a sick mother and barely any health insurance covering the bare minimum, but she needs more. We've lost the option of universal health care. We've lost so many health care options. We're losing that battle, and that's got to end. We have to step up. We've got to fix this issue. These corporations have too much power in our government, and that drowns out our voices. And the problem is that there's a huge difference in number. The way democracy works is that, the people have a voice. But the problem is that our voices, the 99%, our voices are being drowned out by the wealthy 1%. And that has to stop. And this is where we end it.